was when I ruled the world.
You want something special to do? Feel like your time is being well spent? Stop worrying about 2026 and 2028 and who the candidates might be then or might not be or how we should handle that. Focus on the fact that we have a major election coming up in this country in about 2 weeks.
Yes, I'm
Yes,
feeling
we do.
and we're ruling the world today. I love a whirlwind day, and I'm so excited to have everybody in the room. We have Jean Rossi, who is going to be tuning in because there's a lot going on, folks, with the legal. As you know, Letitia James is down being arraigned at the Norfolk Federal Court. We have Fennell on the spot, our reporter down there that we're going to get to in a sec. We want to get her in the room. Let's spotlight Fennell and see if we can get her. Once we see her mug, we know that she's going to report out. But Jean just got called to be on CNN. We were the coolest though. We got him first, but of course, CNN first, as we say. And then he'll be in later to report out about what we see going on in the injustice in the justice system. So here she is. Let's just take it right over to Fennell. What do you think, Carrie? Let's go.
I love it.
So guys, hi, I am in Norfolk. I'm at 600 Granby Street, which is where the courthouse is. And I have to tell you, it's been a whirlwind of a morning. We've had Letitia James come out and speak, and she was just so articulate. The words she said were so powerful and fearless. There is a mobile billboard that's going around with her picture on it saying fearless. We have Senator Aaron Rouse who gave a speech. We have Senator Angela Graves who gave a speech. We have the Commonwealth Attorney of Norfolk who also spoke. And now we have Black Voters Matters leaders speaking. It's been pretty fearless out here this morning. I'm going to just show you guys so that you can see what I've been seeing. So you can see that.
Wow.
So hopefully you can hear me and you've heard me. We've got reporters out from Norfolk, from ABC, CBS, NBC, and it's just been pretty amazing. So you can see that. But it's been a pretty amazing morning. So if I can get someone else to speak up, I'll let you guys know. But yeah, I'm so glad that you were able to join me to see this.
So now let me just
so cool.
real quick, and I just want to get your opinion here, how this came about. Why are people standing out there, and how are, where's that energy coming from? If you can get away from the crowd and talk to us.
Go ahead. Good to see you. Yeah, so that was just the chair of the City of Virginia Beach Democratic Committee. But here's why I'm here. So let me just turn around so you can see me. 1 second, moves a little slow.
Okay.
So what's happened is, as you all know, because of the vindictive president of the United States that we have, he is on a tour of retribution. And Letitia Ann James, who prosecuted him in New York, has been indicted. And today she was arraigned at 10:45 this morning. So these are folks gathered out here to protest and to stand up for Letitia Ann James. And so there's been, as I said, about 150 people out here, and they are angry, but they are also joyful in the support that they're giving to Attorney General Letitia James. So that's why I'm out here this morning.
Well, it came from the people. People are outraged. People are standing up for the NAACP. I thought you said you had Randy Weingart there.
Yes, I did. I have an interview that I'll share with you guys later of Randy Weingart, who's out here. She's a good friend of Letitia James. Gayleen Knoyton, of course, is leading the NAACP out here. We have the chair of the Norfolk Democratic Committee who's out here. There are lots of politicians, as I said, Senator Angela Graves, Senator Aaron Rouse. They're out here to support Letitia Ann James. So it's been a really good crowd of folks that have been out here in Norfolk, who've driven, some of them for miles, in order to support Letitia James.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you.
That's so great.
We'll stay tuned.
Yeah, COVA Coalition set up
Cova Coalition set up a rapid response team to get the word out last night and this morning to let as many people know as possible to get out there and show their support at the Norfolk Federal Courthouse. That's so fantastic. And I'm so glad you got to go. I had to work. I couldn't
Well,
go.
I would say that the strength of what we're in the power chat, just talking this up, because the strength of the grassroots, because I see Chris Lemenstrel here. He is from Democracy Forward. I think I'm saying it right, Chris. You know, my mind's going 100 miles per hour. And we're going to be talking about Virginia's redistricting. And you saw the news drop, Carrie. They are going at it. They are saying we got to do this before the election to take the vote on redistricting. Right?
Yeah, I think I mean, you know, Democrats keep acting shocked that Republicans are not following the rules. So it's probably time that we start playing the game that they do. You know, I mean, they've been playing this game and doing it, and nobody feels really good about it. No one feels good about it, but we're going to have to do it because that's what they're doing.
Well, I think a lot of people may feel good about it, right? Because we're worried we see this happening. So Chris will be with us in the after chat to really talk more, because what we're going to do is do some calls to action on this. I think in the middle of the election season, in my mind's always on how do we garnish this about our people to win and vote? What is at stake here? When we see Letitia being prosecuted, we see that, you know, the Attorney General Mayeris not doing anything about that, his Republican colleagues being fired by this administration. So
I think I mean, I think between the redistricting with the House of Delegates and how important that is, and then the states fighting Trump back shows you how important the AG race is and the governor. We've all known this, but I think people are starting to wake up to that. I'm hoping that like Gen Pop, not those of us who are on the call and reading the news all the time, you know, I think that they're starting to wake up to how important this is. And I think that I'm so glad, you know, that people are starting to pay attention to the fact that this is just an important race here in 2 weeks.
You are so right. And I think after the destruction of the East Wing, after that, you know, after the No Kings, little baby tyrant, you know, had a tantrum. And it's really scary to show you what he's capable of. No planning, no anything, just tore the whole building down. He is a lunatic. And I think that, you know, that I think did it for a lot of people going, oh my God, this is crazy. So, and
right. I think absolutely. But I do think that we have to remember that while we're so upset about the administrative overreach, we're so upset about him tearing down the walls and all of that we have to keep reframing this to the economic message that's really resonating with people. We have to keep reframing it. So however you can reframe that to your friends, that this reconstruction of the East Wing, which was not necessary, is a colossal waste of billions of dollars. You know, just keep spinning it that way, that this administrative power grab is actually robbing us of representation. That's important. But then turning that around. Why is that important? Because our representatives are the ones who know about our economic situation. They cannot represent our interests when our representation is taken away. We have to keep spinning it toward economics so that will really resonate to people.
It's damn true. We have people out of work, and Glenn Youngkin's over there, the governor right now in Virginia, we're going to get rid of, is over there acting like, oh, he's bringing food to everybody. You've taken the food out of people's mouths.
Terrible.
So just shut your trap, as I would just want to say. I want to make sure we get our show started, because I see that maybe Gene came in the room if we made him a co-host. What I want to do is open the show, and then maybe we'll report out with Gene. So welcome, everybody. You're on Network Nova's Live Friday Power Lunch. So great to see you in the room. We are on episode 38. It's a Formidable Allies Building Power with Gen Z. And in the room, we have Gene Rossi, legal pundit. Go Gene. He is a favorite of the Friday Power Lunch. Michelle and Macy Ward, mom and daughter, intergenerational activists. And we're going to be talking about Gen Z and how we can really build power together, understand each other. We're going to love it. I'm so excited to have Roanoke in the room. Roanoke Indivisible, long-term friends, at least of the Friday of Network Nova, is our power building in Roanoke with Delegate Sam Rasool. And I'm so grateful to have Maria Collins in the room. She's an organizer with Roanoke Indivisible. They were on the Rachel Maddow show as well as Cova Coalition. And lastly, Delegate Darius Clark from HD 84, Gen Z elected. What happens when you get power as a Gen Z? I can't wait to figure all that out. So can we go to Gene and bring him up? And let me pretend like we're on CNN. How you doing, Gene?
Doing well. I'm speaking with you all.
You know, it's better here than CNN. We have bigger reach, you know.
You are better than CNN. I was enjoying Carrie's comments. Carrie, I couldn't agree with you more. That's why Bill Clinton was a superb politician. He always brought it home to economics and putting food on your table. And you are absolutely right.
Yes, of course she
Can
is.
you say that several more times, Gene? I appreciate it.
I'll say it
You're
one more. You are right.
absolutely right. We'll say it again. So absolutely. Well, you're with smart women, and I know that's why you like to come on the show. So let's do some hot Italian takes from Gene Rossi. I know, when we talk about mob bosses, we're real familiar at what that structure looks like. Let's talk about what's going on with this administration and the corruption that you're seeing as a former prosecutor at the federal level, very familiar with all the people we're talking about in that particular courthouse. What is going on? From James Comey to Letitia James today to even John Bolton, what's your inside scoop on all of this?
Okay, I'm just going to start 10,000 feet above the earth. I worked for the Department of Justice. I worked in EDVA, combined 27 years. And I said this on CNN the last two segments. Those institutions, those entities, they were my mosque, they were my temple, they were my synagogue, and they were my church. Sacred ground. I worked under 10 U.S. attorneys, 10 attorney generals. I I love politics, but I treated every case apolitically. The sad thing about today is when you have three of your personal criminal defense attorneys running the Department of Justice, bad things happen. Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, I don't know where they put their moral compass, but I said this about an hour ago. Since 1870, when the Department of Justice was started, this is by far the most apolitical, political, not apolitical, political Justice Department we'll ever see. So I want to just focus on what Carrie said. We got to focus on economics. But what's great, not great, but what's positive to me about the Letitia James case and James Comey, I'll get to Bolton in a second, is that legally, those two cases are turds. They are turds.
Wait,
They are weak. They will never in front of a full-fledged jury where you hear both sides of an argument, unlike a grand jury.
Right.
And they are going to win because there's no way, in my humble view, they'll prove beyond a reasonable doubt either one of them committed a crime. And I want to talk about the grand jury. I was asked about it about an hour ago. Will the grand jury approve the indictment? Okay, let's talk about a grand jury. Folks, a grand jury is a prosecutor's playground. I played in that playground for 27 years. It's one-sided. There's no judge. There's no defendant. There's no defense attorney. It's just the prosecutor, an agent, and 16 to 23 jurors. You're only getting one side of the coin. Mm-hmm. And the burden of proof is this much probable cause. If you can't indict somebody in a grand jury, you're a moron and you should turn in your bar license. And what I said an hour ago is this. There's that statement that you can indict a ham sandwich. Well, I said about Letitia James' indictment, what we have is 2 pieces of white bread, some mayo, some nice mustard. There's not even ham. Her case is the weakest mortgage fraud case I have ever seen. We're talking about loss to the government of $1,400? Are you kidding me? So here's the good news legally. We don't have to go to the mat and attack anybody or do anything crazy. Legally, there is a great argument for selective and vindictive for both of them. And there's a phenomenally good argument that Lindsay Halligan, who is a disgrace, that she was appointed illegally. What does that mean? When she signed the indictment herself, She didn't have the power to do that. That's a powerful legal argument. And this all occurs before you get to trial, where
Right.
I would be embarrassed to present these cases.
Well, Jean, I want to make sure that we're mindful of the time.
I'm sorry. I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
I'm
it's not
sorry.
you. No, 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 no. Don't feel like that. We're just trying to make sure if you can stay with us, but just wrap your last
Stay.
thoughts up on that in the sense of when we say about the justice system and what, just those last words on how much, how important this, that it's really weaponized now. I mean, this is,
Yeah, demonstrating the vindictiveness of it and how
yes,
we can put that in our own words.
I'll try to do this in 30 seconds. I'm having breakfast tomorrow with someone who's in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Alexandria. I won't mention her or his name. He's a dear friend of mine. We're gonna have like let the healing begin. All right. And he's probably at risk even meeting with me. But the morale in the Department of Justice in EDVA, that's less than a mile from where I'm sitting, the morale is so low, it's disgraceful. Career people with 20, 30, 40 years of experience are resigning or
yes,
they're getting fired. That just tears apart the morale, the esprit de corps, the sense of justice that I experienced for my 27 years. It was a beautiful thing. That's why I call it my temple. And they took this sacred ground, and if they're
right.
not tearing it down like the East Wing, they're tearing it down figuratively. The
Right.
Department of Justice is in shambles.
No, that's really scary. And I'm thinking too, when we lose good people on the inside, that makes me even more nervous when people leave or then it's like, what is left? But I'm going to leave you with this. I love you, Jean. I
Love
love
you.
you that you make time for us. That's really important. We're the people in here doing the work. So it's really great to hear from you. Stick around and maybe we can circle back later, but we understand you're busy and
Stick around.
probably we'll
I'm
see you
sticking around.
get us on MSN. We'll see you later, Jean. Thank you for being here.
Thank
I'll
you
stay
so
on.
much,
I'll
Jean.
stay on.
It's always so great.
Isn't
Always
it?
so great to hear his perspective.
You just have to we have our hour and a half show, as we say, when we get this going. We went live.
Yeah, right.
We did what we did, but I am so excited because I want with the show, when we talk about the formidable allies with Gen Z, we came across Michelle Ward because of an article she wrote for the Grassroots Connector. Robin had, bye Carrie. Robin had Robin had alerted us to this wonderful article because I'll just be honest, we've been sort of, always saying things like, what are the younger people doing? What are they doing? It's because we don't know the spaces that they're in. So a lot of that has to do with our inability to see them. So let's welcome Michelle Ward and Macy Ward up here. Hello, let's get everybody in. Mom and daughter team.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Hey, so good to see you guys. Let's start. Michelle, introduce yourself, and then we'll go over to Macy just real quick because I got to fix.
I am Michelle Ward. I'm a local mental health therapist, a Gen Z mom, and I treat a whole bunch of Gen Z clients. And I get to hear their amazing voices every day, all day long, and am happy to be sharing with you all here today what I hear from them.
Yes, awesome. And Macy.
Hi, I'm Macy. I'm Michelle's daughter. I'm 23 years old. I went to American University at the start of COVID and graduated in 2024. I'm really excited to be here to talk about my activist journey and just share what it's like to be a Gen Z person growing up in this administration and in the political climate.
I am too, because I'll be honest, we as activists, we are always trying to make allyships and partnerships. It's one of the first things that we learn. We all, we first started, we were 3 white women. We're like, well, where do we find women of color? And that's a really weird question to say, but you realize that your life, you're not being very intersectional because you're segregated in a lot of ways and in silos. And you guys talk about this. So when we talk about young people, we're like, what are they doing? And there's a lot of judgment with us older sometimes, like, what is happening with them? And it realized it's really on us. So I want to start with Michelle and just open that up with you because your article was just perfect. And, when we talk about why did you feel compelled to write the intergenerational divide at this time? And, start there and let's talk about that and explain to the audience why this fiercely unapologetic generation and what has shaped them.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. Even before this administration came into power, I got a call. I was raised by a joyful warrior of a single mom, and I got a phone call from her about a year ago last summer after listening to some of the debates saying, "What do you think about all of this paying off the student debt business?"
Yeah.
Right?
What's that about?
And I realized that she did not get it. She absolutely did not understand the economy that these kids are being born into,
Hmm.
and that they can barely make a living wage even out of college in order to live. Particularly Northern Virginia is brutal. And so I started to get really curious. I'm part of a progressive activist leadership group. I treat Gen Z clients, as I've mentioned, many of whom are activists. And I've been just having conversations with all of the generations. I hosted an intergenerational brunch in the midst of between the administration coming in and today. And I had a 20-year-old in the room, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old. I represented the 50-year-olds. I had a 60-year-old activist, 75-year-old activist, and a 90-year-old activist. And wow, what an eye-opening 3 hours. I mean, we could barely get up from the table. We were so compelled, and it was awkward at times. It was uncomfortable. We clearly don't get each other, right? Because we all come from our own historical context. But I encourage everyone to do as much bridging as you can with the younger generations. They've got a lot to teach us, and our experience and wisdom forms them. Their insight and perspective, their fresh eyes inform us. And so I think that's how we win this fight. I think it's how we get out of it.
Yeah, I'm thinking like when people say Gen Z, I mean, you had just to say that you've been doing a workshop on this. You presented to a Democratic club and a wonderful presentation, and that you'll be able to maybe do at another time, even for our audience. But let's just first understand, who is Gen Z? Do you want, Macy, are you comfortable telling about like that demographic, the age, and what sort of shapes the Gen Z? It's because a lot of people may not even know.
Sure. So I think that the actual like time frame of who is considered Gen Z is pretty up in the air. But for me personally, it's usually people who are born into a post 9/11 world, who don't know a world without the war on terror, and don't know a world without gun violence affecting their communities very, very closely. We grew up with a lot of internet access when it was first being developed, and people didn't really understand that too much internet access is really harmful. Um, so, yeah, we've had a lot of information just at our fingertips from what kind of feels like the moment that a lot of us were born. Um, and yeah, I think that because we've had so much access to information, it's sparked an interest in politics and activism, in figuring out what our individual activist journeys look like and what we can do to make a difference.
And what is the year, what is the year frame for that? And the year,
So
yeah,
Gen Z is technically considered 1997 to 2012.
okay.
So they're currently 13 to 28 years old. They're the youngest generation in the voting booth and the workplace, and they represent only 16% of the voting age population.
Yeah, well, let's, since a lot of your information, that background, I found so compelling about what sets this particular demographic apart. So, Michelle, talk a little bit about that, what you found. We talked about a lot of interesting things, like even what Macy just said, what shaped her views, and then this actually shapes the activism.
Yeah, I mean, the primary ones that really blew me away when I did my deep dive research for the intergenerational divide presentation on
Right.
Sunday, 1 out of 2 Gen Z humans identify non-white. This is not a white generation. 23, now remember the last census was in 2010. So we're doing a lot of other kinds of research to get this data. But 23 to 28% present LGBTQ plus, and approximately 4% identify as transgender or gender nonconforming. So Gen Z does not consider identity a fringe issue. like the centrist Democrats call it. So I thought those were really, really important and eye-opening statistics.
I do, and I think that they don't blink. And I love that when you said the story about your daughter, when you had a little bit of an issue you had to solve, and just that fierceness, that unapologetic, kindness. I love that what you said about what you loved about your daughter.
Yeah, I mean, these guys show up at our dinner table and school us every day. Like being in a pandemic together where Black Lives Matter and Me Too and all of these things were going down. And we all four were, I have two great Gen Z kids. We all four were in our house together having these really important conversations over the dinner table. They do unapologetically use their voices. And I do think being born digital natives
Yes.
kind of teaches them that, right? That they are okay to say what they think and feel openly, even if no one's asking the right questions sometimes.
That's really interesting. So Macy, over to you. When we talked about like how you do participate in some of those challenges in your Gen Z generation, talk a little bit about that. Like, how are you showing up? I know one article I read, it talked about just this really the bridge, this digital use, that the value of how you just enter this space. Even in this last protest, that how you're able to really use that in such a powerful way. You see it on TikTok, you see it on the dances that are just energized a lot of us. So talk about how are you showing up, and why aren't we saying, what's the matter with us? We need to see you more and understand it. And it's a lot of an ability that we even talk about we can't use technology as well, maybe. So talk a little bit about that, Macy.
Yeah, I mean, like you kind of alluded to, a lot of this is going on social media platforms that I think people in the older generations are just not exposed to. They didn't grow up with it like we did.
Right.
I would say the majority of older folks aren't as reliant on their phones as maybe the younger generation are. That could be a generalization, but yeah, there's a lot of really important accounts that circulate on the internet that are typically just normal everyday people who are getting on their accounts and sharing their opinions, and it exposes all of us to like an array of opinions and information that typically we wouldn't be exposed to just by interacting with people in person. Obviously, there's downsides to that. There's a whole lot of misinformation that people are forced to decipher on social media, which is unfortunately kind of turning into a skill that you have to have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that
If I can help you get specific, that general skepticism that you said to me about politics of your generation, that intrigued me, and that people will be like, maybe I'm not going to vote. And then that's, somewhere we really want to dig around today.
Sure. Yeah. So I think my generation, like I said, has been exposed to so much information and is so aware about so many negative things that are going on in the world, what feels like all at once. And that's really overwhelming, and that's really discouraging for a lot of people. And when you're exposed to so many issues all at once, it feels like nothing is actually getting done about those issues. And so I think a lot of my generation has lost faith and just trust in political institutions as a whole. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, that means not voting, which is challenging, especially with the importance of local elections and how those have the power to directly affect every single person in our community. So
now we know, well, with Michelle being mom, that part of you understand not all your peers may be there yet. And that's why your voice is so, important. We see Nadarius Clark, who's coming up next, ran for office and is elected. So there is a powerful force where we see you guys will be the next generation of leaders. Michelle, I wanted to talk about a really kind of thing that we were concerned about when we talked, was the radicalization of young men in this generation, and a little bit of what those challenges are. Can you talk about that? And then we're going to go into bridging that divide and then get to Nadarius.
Happy to. So what we're seeing, and again, we don't have census information, but in this last election in particular, it sounds like the young men of Gen Z are being pretty significantly radicalized. So it's a mix of post-COVID shutdown issues, frustrations economically, but they're really kind of being exploited by the right,
Yeah,
because the left is obviously raising marginalized voices. So minorities and minority needs are being paid attention to, and the left is seen as shunning traditional masculinity, and the right is seen as embracing it. And so there's
Mhm.
this countless number of influencers and podcasters, and including the president, who are flagrantly validating, fomenting, and exploiting into these young men who don't have the experience, knowledge, or wisdom to know how they're being taken advantage of.
Right. I mean, because you think about the president, this president's been around a long time for these people. It's almost normalized a little bit, Macy. Would you think that with some of your, I mean, how does dating go, as we say? How's that?
I don't know how dating goes. But yeah, it's very normalized.
Yeah.
I encounter so many people who think just blatant misogyny and blatant racism are completely okay. And I mean, I can't even say if that's because of the administration, because I don't remember what it was like
Right
without
before.
this administration. I wasn't being exposed to conversations like that in a
Well,
time before Trump. So I I definitely still think it's having some kind of effect, and it's very noticeable. So
yeah. Well, last, I want to make sure we just talk about how do we bridge this divide, and I'll start with Michelle, and then we'll go to Macy, and then we'll wrap.
Well, I will tell you that there's a lot of family cutoff between the generations. 1 out of 2 adults is estranged in this country from a close family member over politics, and 1 out of 5 point. Excuse me, 1 out of 2 adults is estranged. 1 out of 5 point to political differences as the trigger. So there are practical solutions. We can promote cross-generational dialogue. And I'm saying we, Gen X and older, can go into spaces, and I am referring to platforms. There was a comment in the chat.
Right.
We aren't on the same platforms, so we aren't getting the same content. And obviously, we all know misinformation and disinformation is
Right.
part of the equation here. But I do think encouraging empathy and understanding, using active listening skills without defensiveness, judgment, and criticism of the younger generation, learning from each other to use technology for unity and leveraging that rather than siloing and using technology against each other, and just investing in intergenerational education. I told a story about how I have a millennial client who goes into old folks' homes, and she teaches them how to use their iPhones for everything from shopping
Right.
to banking. We benefit from younger people teaching the older generations, and the experience of the older generations bridging with these young
Yeah.
kids who really need our support. We have the resources, they do not.
It's interesting because it reminds me, Macy, when when we think about how families were a long time ago, people were all raised in the same household. So you have that generational people in your household, and we just don't live like that anymore. And the thought that we sort of divide people in these weird kind of generations is also very interesting. So in the sense of how we work with you, what would you like to see, and how can we do that? And let's bring Carrie up in the conversation, because we're going to I'm so excited for Nadarius to get to talk about the elected side of this.
so for me, a lot of it resolves around judgment and both sides like addressing why they hold those judgments, and oftentimes hold stereotypes and generalizations about an entire diverse group of people. For the older generation, that looks like, not judging sexual identities, like personal expressions of fashion and all of that, and then judging someone based entirely off of that and claiming that they cannot possibly be educated about politics based on superficial things like that.
Right.
And then I think for my generation, it looks like not writing off old generations as obsolete or outdated, because there's a lot of wisdom that I think we need to be learning about political and historical cycles that we're stuck in that older generations have directly experienced. So I'm hoping moving forward, and given the very tumultuous political climate that we can let go of some of our judgments surrounding age, surrounding generational labels, and just come together in whatever ways possible.
I love it. So I hope you can stay in the after chat. I think our audience, we can go deeper, and we do have some great opportunities to work with Michelle on different levels. She does a really great thing around resiliency workshops. So thank you, Michelle and Macy.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Mother and
Yeah, thanks,
daughter,
Jen.
ZZ, we'll get over to Carrie and let you rock and roll.
Great.
We'll just go right into getting Nadarius up here, and we're excited.
I'm always find it so interesting to talk about generational generalizations, because I'm Gen X. I'm the smallest generation out there. Kind of sucks. Got a lot.
I'm on the
Zs.
boomer. I'm not quite. I'm right on the cusp of boomer and whatever. So I'm a little bit of everything. Great to see you, Nadarius. I'll let you guys get at it.
We got a cusper. We got someone right on the cusp here, because Delegate Clark, he's kind of riding the Gen Z millennial. You're kind of right on the cusp there, Delegate Clark.
Yeah,
Thanks
I'm
for being here.
Right there, 1995. So I'm like right on the cusp.
Right in the middle. Well, let's get to it. So we welcome you to the Friday Power Lunch. You're our millennial man of the moment, or maybe you're our Gen Z zeitgeist. I don't know what you are, but you're kind of right in the middle. So we're glad you're here. But you are the youngest Democrat ever elected to the House of Delegates, and you get asked about that a lot. But before we talk about that, because I do not want it to get lost, you are an exceptionally effective legislator. You have been standing up for the working class. You have supported legislation to help working folks, and you are tireless. And I don't want that to get overshadowed with our conversation about how old you are. So I want to start with that. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Carrie. And thanks to the Friday Power Lunch for having me. It's always a good time to be here and talk about what's happening, in our community. So I was excited to have the opportunity to come back again and talk with you all.
Wonderful. Well, tell us a little bit about how you got started. And I'd really like to know about who encouraged you. We're talking about bridging the divide, and encouraging young people is important. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'll just go back to how I got started in activism and advocacy. And that was back in 2016. I was still in undergrad at Virginia Union University. That's why I got my maroon and gray colors in the background. Those were my high school colors and my college colors. So I just took them to the campaign trail. But while I was at Virginia Union University, sadly, we saw some of the ugliness in our society, what happened in Charlottesville, when sadly people was getting ran over with vehicles. And then sadly, folks came to Richmond and protested and paraded up and down Monument Avenue. And my college actually went on lockdown because of that. It was a hate group right on Monument Avenue, marching up and down the street. And from there, I was able to co-found a social justice organization on campus. We got to learn how to lobby, how to rally. We even got to meet with some of the 1968 sanitation workers that went on strike with Dr. King back in the day. We got to learn firsthand from them how to build community, how to lead, boycotts, and how to really advocate and fight for your community. And from there, I learned how to lobby. I lobbied in DC for Medicare expansion. Sadly, we know the federal government is trying to undo all of that hard work. And here in Virginia, we're looking to lose 300,000 people losing their health care. And sadly, one of those 6 hospitals that is threatening to shut down is right here in my district. So this is a personal hit for me in the 84th district. But from there, after I graduated, my senior year in college, I got the opportunity to work for Senator Tim Kaine, America's dad, as we like to call him. And I got to work with him down in Hampton Roads as a field organizer for the city of Chesapeake and Portsmouth, and also working for Congressman Scott. And then from there, I worked on about 12.5 campaigns and nonprofits. And then I finally said, let me look at who represents me. And more importantly, how do they vote? Because so many times, we go to Richmond, we have a really short session, and we're voting on about 1,000 bills in one session. And sometimes, that get lost in translation. So I wanted to make sure that, my representative was voting accordingly to his district. And sadly, he wasn't. I had ran against a 3-term incumbent. He had plenty of money, plenty of name recognition, but, we went out there in the community. We knocked 20,000 doors in that primary, and we won that election by just over 250 votes. So when they say
you brought that young energy.
definitely.
You brought that young energy.
Yeah,
well,
I was 25 when I ran, and I was 26 when I won.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So, and you were the first Black representative for your district, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's super important in terms of representation for Portsmouth and parts of Suffolk. So you don't shy away from your age, right? And along the bottom of your website, I thought this was fantastic. You have a feature that says, our delegate, does our delegate represent us? Like, are they like us? And I think it's cool. It says, do our delegates represent us? And you have that little design. Tell us about that and why it's so important to educate people about this, the diversity of age as well as race in the House of Delegates.
Yeah, definitely. That's something we done had on the website for a couple of years now. And it's so cool to see that data, because it really shows you in real time, you know, the age, the race, the makeup of the General Assembly, and then how the makeup of Virginia, the Commonwealth, is, and see, and if that is reflected in our halls, in the House or in the Senate. And sadly, it's not. You know, I'm still the youngest person in the General Assembly for the last 4 years. I'm glad to be there, but I do want some other young folks to come in and take the torch as well. But we are getting some younger people running as well. Delegate Henson, Delegate LaVere Bowling, Delegate Cole, Delegate McClure. They're all in their 30s with me. So we got a few 30-year-olds in the House. But we no longer have any 20-year-olds. I turned 30 this year, so I was the last of the 20-year-olds in the House. But it's so important, you know, definitely when we're talking about, I serve on communications, technology, and innovation. A lot of times we're talking about AI, and we're talking about social media. And the generation that is affected the most around social media is young people, is that Gen Z, is the millennials. Learning about, you know, the mental health, the anxiety, you know, the things that is causing on young people. And we haven't properly legislated around it. We haven't properly held, you know, the social media companies accountable. And now that we see AI is coming around, we haven't even started, you know, legislating around AI. And you know, Trump tried to get it in this big, beautiful bill where he was going to ban states from allowing us to do any type of legislation around AI. Luckily, that part came back out of the bill, but we're still so far behind with making sure that, you know, AI and coding, that folks are held accountable. Because sadly,
so when
oh, go ahead.
So sorry. Well, I just want to get to a couple more questions. So when you are in those spaces and you are not surrounded by people your age and younger, what are you doing to bring those voices into that space? For example, in one of those hearings?
Yeah, definitely. I pride myself every year. This year, we beat the number. We brought over 250 students to the Capitol this year. From every single one of my high schools got to visit the Capitol within the 84th district. So that's 5 high schools that we were able to bring to the Capitol. And we even brought some high schools outside of my district. But I made sure I talked to the delegate before we did it. But we got so many young people involved and excited, you know, about the General Assembly. You know, when I was in high school, I didn't get that opportunity to go to the General Assembly and be there and tour the facility, get introduced in the gallery and everything. So, you know, just making sure that we're giving opportunities to young people that maybe didn't exist for us, and also being aware that, you know, school shootings. I didn't have school shooting drills when I was in high school. So we need to make sure that we're taking account to, you know, what is this gun violence that we're seeing in our community doing to our young people? What is the dose that they're doing? What is the mental health effect? We know that the next generation is troubled with depression and anxiety 3 times higher than the last generation. So we have some serious work to do. And I'm just happy to be in the forefront of these fights. You know, I chair the firearm committee in the House as well. So, and I co-chair the gun violence prevention caucus as well. So we've been sending dozens of bills to the governor. He's been vetoing it, sadly, but we're going to get a new governor pretty soon. And I know
you work really hard with the folks from Moms Demand. We have a lot of folks from Moms Demand on the call, so I know that you're one of their legislators. What else can we do to engage the Gen Z folks who you're appealing to? What else can we do to engage them? Because we are talking about some of that cynicism of having grown up with you know, so many issues that they're dealing with. What are we going to do to engage them? We have so many disaffected voters here in Southampton Roads. Our turnout was abysmal, especially among young voters. What more can we do? How can we do a better job?
Yeah, I think we're missing the mark with meeting them where they are. And a lot of times, you know, in our typical formula of campaigning, young people aren't really there. You know, the average voter is normally like 55 and up, and that's who we target. And we kind of wait for people to get into that range. And that means we go 20 years without talking to a voter and then assume that they're just going to love us once they hit that number. So we have to start meeting people where they are. As soon as they're 18, 16, when they're pre-registering to vote, we need to be in those schools. We need to be in the community, and we got to find innovative ways to meet people. Having skate nights, having karaoke nights, finding ways to meet young people and find out what they care about. When I talk to young people all the time, they don't know that social media or their video games or different things that they do is legislated. When they go buy that candy bar, they're participating in government, they're paying taxes. So just, encouraging them to know, because so many times they're like, well, that don't affect me. Politics don't affect me. And it's like, it does. It does. Let me count the ways. Let me show you the ways that it do. And then let me see what triggers you and what makes you interested to want to get involved. But so many times we just got to take that time to meet them where they are. Go out to those football games, to the basketball games, get to know the young folks. I'm at just about every sports game in my district, meeting them. I got 8 interns within the district, from Windsor to Franklin to Suffolk. We make sure that we just don't talk the talk, but we're practicing what we're preaching and getting young people involved.
Yeah. I got to meet one of your interns at the Peanut Festival.
That's
great. Yes, everyone get an intern. So we're going to wrap it up and bring Catherine back in so we can start wrapping up. But I just love that you really do walk that talk, and we could learn a lot. And I know that I was there with you at the Suffolk Peanut Festival for a little bit, and I know people were like, wait, is that one of the high school kids, or is that who is that guy?
Well,
you got your big old pin on.
Yeah, I got to see Nadarius, and what I forgot about is how tall he is. I was walking behind him. I'm like, and it was so great when you first ran and we met and tried to support your race. And I hope if you could stay around a little bit, that'd be great for Macy and you. I think that what we see about inspiring Gen Z to run, and I know David Hogue and all his work around supporting leaders, and that's the things we have to do. So thank you for being here, because we're real excited to start our next segment where Carrie is going to talk about leadership around the No Kings. We have Maria Collins here from Indivisible Roanoke. So thank you, Nadarius.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Clark.
Yeah, let's just call up Maria right away. I once met a girl named Maria, and there she is. How are you, Maria?
Hi, nice to be here.
Yeah, nice.
You're looking pretty good. You're looking pretty good. It's a big weekend. We're all still standing.
Yeah, we had a great time. We had the highest turnout yet for our location, maybe 4,000 folks, which I think is about double what we had previously in our 2 MAGA represented district.
Wow. Yeah, you were up against some red headwinds putting your event together. We did not face that many headwinds putting ours together here in Virginia Beach. Although we like to think of Virginia Beach as purple, they're recovering. We're trying to get them closer to blue, which is a big reason why COVA Coalition worked with our ally groups, with Move On and Freedom Virginia, to bring it to Virginia Beach, because we feel like we really need to reach them and show them that it's okay to use their voices. I don't know if you felt like that was a big part of your event.
Yeah, I think so. I think we are very conscious of where we are and keeping a nonpartisan stance that invites folks in while still being unapologetic about what we actually want to see, right? We're really focused on building people power that can win material change where we are, not just opposing the administration. And frankly, the current system isn't representing voters on any end of the political spectrum, right? We're kind of gearing up for a data center fight in a county nearby, which, voted up and down the ticket for people who are supporting these data centers, even though they're worried about their water and their electricity the same way we are in Roanoke. So yeah, we are really focused on the issues and trying to bring people in no matter who they're voting for.
Yeah, I'm wondering, in Virginia Beach, we saw a lot more young people and people of color. And I kept kind of joking around. I said, these are people that we've never met. Like, they're not the same. Young and people of color, young people and people of color always show up. These are people I had never met. Friends, we had so many young people out there. How about you guys in Roanoke? What did you see?
Yeah, we had more. We still skew a little older, I'll admit it, but this particular rally was right next to a playground. So we had lots of families with their young kids playing on the playground. We had folks with signs along the road in another area of the park. So we had something for everybody, lots of people in their animal costumes. I think definitely the most diverse yet.
Yeah, the costumes were really great. That kind of, I knew they were coming. We were encouraging people to bring their costumes, but I'm so glad you mentioned like the nonpartisan aspect of it. we really were focusing on the democracy, the Constitution, and the whole No Kings thing kind of gives you a good setup to talk about good old fashioned civics. What kind of speakers were you having, and who really rung true with the folks that there were there?
Yeah, I will say, actually veered a little bit from our nonpartisan stance this time, and we had some candidates. So we have a really
Mhm.
important school board race happening, where once again, to the point of like material changes in people's lives, like there's been a crackdown in our local school board that is harming kids in schools. So that felt like a
Mm.
top priority, was making sure people were turning out for that race. I think that really resonated. We've been talking a lot about bullying in the schools, and
Yeah.
one of our candidates even kind of got bullied on social media after being posted with her photo, and so now that kind of they're circulating some pushback on that, to be like, my whole role in the school board will be helping protect our kids from things like this.
Yeah, and aren't we all getting bullied right now? We're kind of all getting bullied. I mean, let's talk about bringing it home, really. We did the same thing. We have the 10-1 referendum in Virginia Beach trying to claw back our voting rights in Virginia Beach. So we felt like it was a big opportunity as the last big rally before Election Day, most likely, to educate people about a local referendum, voting yes on 10-1. Everyone repeat after me, vote yes on 10-1. But now I want to just turn a little bit. Last night we got wind of the Letitia James uh, arraignment protest today. So we were really getting on top of folks about that. We sent out something to every single person who had signed up on anything Cova Coalition has hosted or co-hosted through Mobilize as a what's next. And we were promoting 4 tangible things that we are asking people to do as our what's next. We wanted them to volunteer to be poll greeters, help us with some get out the vote car parades and leafleting for get out the vote, strictly for that. And then we wanted them to, of course, join our mailing list so they could find out more about all these activities going on. We tried to be as specific as possible, educating people that activism is 365. Trying to get a little with us last night, promoting this Letitia James thing as a next step to get people to think about these protests and rallies as happening spontaneously, not making a reservation for a Sunday, Saturday afternoon with tea and crumpets. So what were your next steps? How were you promoting that to your crowd out there?
Yeah, certainly that all resonates as a message we're pushing as well. Post No Kings, well, at the event, we had a lot of tabling organizations. So we are also always saying the work happens between these rallies. It happens by being in community with others who are willing to work to make change. So we have lots of ways to do that within our own organization. Of course, are always inviting people into that, but we did host other organizations doing the work locally. So that was our main ask, was, if you are really concerned about what's going on, don't just show up when we send you that email invite. Take initiative. You are the change you've been waiting for. Get out there and join us.
Well, let me just interject. We love Roanoke, and I'll say that with Sarah Calhoun is up there, the ambassador of Buzz, that very early on she would go and march with Roanoke. Roanoke has been very active and a very strong group. And are you finding the influx more? Is it sort of like a lot of indivisibles have experienced? I know Cova Coalition has just this more membership, and then what do we do with that membership?
Yeah, it's hard. We are really focused on relational organizing. So being on our mailing list is not actually what we want. Like, of course, that's helpful, but if we get a sign up for someone, if somebody comes up to us at a rally, or we go up to them, like, we are talking details. We're like, what are your skills? What are your interests? And we are introducing you to someone who is in one of our working groups doing those things, so that you know exactly where to go next. So we are really focused on those deep networks and building trust within our own community that will allow us to keep showing up, because we've seen, burnout in the past when just a handful of people are doing everything. So yeah, we're continuously kind of just trying to grow, but through that organic networking and relationship.
Well, I'm sure like the Mountain Pipeline really had you busy, and now it's going to be the data centers. And I just saw Delegate Rasool doing whiteboards now on social media, talking about the Gen Z.
Yep.
And I know we're getting at one, we want to wrap. And I also, Carrie, want to recognize in the room, we have a lot of people from Shenandoah, which has done incredible work on No Kings. I saw Kathleen Murray is here with We Have Action. I can't say enough about all the people in the room that we know that have been, everybody here probably was at event, organized event. Dennis Atwood's up there. I'm so grateful to everybody in the room that's done their stuff. So if you can stick with us, Maria, and we'll go to the other side, and we will continue. We have our after chat. How's that sound?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great.
It's great
We
to
can
meet
hear from some other folks too who did their No Kings rallies.
I
Lots
think
of
we're
learning
gonna do that.
opportunities.
So yeah, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I'm so excited. What I don't know if we will find Fennell back. I don't think
find her.
she may is going to come in the after chat. Who knows? Maybe she stopped to get a little bit at the the surf rider. She
A
better
lot
not
of good restaurants in Norfolk, Virginia.
without me. I'll be pretty pissed off, Fennell. So I'm very excited. Today was really one of my favorite Fridays because it was fast and fun and Johnny on the spot. So what are some of your takeaways?
Well, I love that Delegate Clark is bringing high school kids to Richmond. I mean, I think that is such a good investment in our kids, and also just modeling that this is something that they can do. I think that's just so important. I love this fact that he said, are we really going to go 20 years without talking to them? Like waiting till they're mature, like for fine wine, you got to take your little 18-year-old voter and put him aside for 20 years till he grows up and decides to vote. Because that's really not true. It's like 30%, 30%, 30%. And then these Gen Z kids, younger voters are like 15%. So it's not that far off, but what a great point.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really engaging kids. And I think what we see is that people in a family, there would be a mother, a father, some kind of peer, it's so powerful to have that kind of peer that's going to talk to you, right? And I think inside families is where we do bridge the divide, if possible, where we can have conversations. I know with my nieces and nephew, like about the election, it was kind of like, yeah, they really needed some information. So that was so nice to see the mother and daughter kind of relationship and how that's helpful. And also, just really paying attention to what's happening with our justice system. And I think in Virginia around this election, it's pretty powerful when we have our attorney general that's there now. And that's why we need a Democratic attorney general.
You got to fight for that. I was at a luncheon this weekend. It said, you don't have to like him, just vote for him. And I thought, how dare you say that about
How
J.T.
dare you
Hoods?
say that? We do.
Are you kidding me? You don't have to like him, just vote for him. That man
hell?
is going to fight for us. I have every reason to believe he's going to be an amazing attorney general. I do like him and I'm voting for him. I'm supporting him. What are you saying?
I think there is something weird that, like, again, this is what I love about Macy Ward. Macy, unapologetically fierce, will say, just really let go of your pearls, people, and understand this is about power. If we do not have power, we cannot protect people. And when you have watching that heap of the East Wing, that could be a lot of things we love. So we need an attorney general, and we are going to fight for every single seat. And I just want to say to people, stand indignant, like Fennell would say. And when you need right now to tell your friends and spread that word. So I want to talk about next week. We're going to have Representative Lauren Underwood with us. And we're also going to have, supermajority we haven't heard a lot of, but we're going to have the executive director, Taylor Saldich, in the room. And we're going to have a fun show because it is a Halloween show. So we'll probably have a lot of trick or treat, a lot of surprises, who knows? So we hope that you'll stay with us. Make sure you subscribe to our Substack. If you're a patron in the room, you don't know how much we really rely on that membership, how important it is, how I love to take my time writing to you guys. It's a special community. Thank you for being you and supporting our work. And also share our work, share our Substack, share this show. And let's wrap up and get to the other side. And thank you to the team up there. And let's win, is all I'm going to say.